I've always been a few steps behind everyone else. Sarah didn't actually like me, but she was stuck pretending to be my girlfriend and looking after me because her parents felt they owed mine a huge favor. One afternoon, she got it into her head that I had hurt her favorite classmate. In retaliation, she locked me inside a pitch-black storage closet, the one place in the world that truly terrified me. Before she slammed the door, she told me in a cold, detached voice, "Adam, even an idiot has to be punished when they make a mistake." The terror was so overwhelming that my brain essentially shut down and rebooted. When I woke up, the fog in my mind had cleared, and I fell in love immediately with the woman sitting by my bedside. It was Emily, Sarah's older sister. Sarah was there too, panicking and kneeling on the floor, begging me, "Please, just try to remember, I'm your girlfriend." I stood at the entrance of the university building, staring blankly at the two of them. They were joined at the hip, as usual. I wasn't sure when it started, but Sarah had begun focusing all her energy on her classmate, Kevin. But at that moment, my brain couldn't process that complexity. I just jogged over to Sarah and grabbed onto her sleeve. Kevin, standing beside her, looked at me like I was something stuck on his shoe. "Hey, look who it is. Your pet turtle made it over." He laughed. "No offense, buddy," he added quickly. "Turtle is a cute nickname. My hamster is named Turtle, and he's great." My gut told me that being called a turtle wasn't a good thing, but before I could work it out, Sarah had already smoothly yanked her arm out of my grip. "What do you want?" I grabbed her sleeve again and pointed nervously at a German shepherd that was off its leash nearby. "Sarah, I'm scared." She knew perfectly well that I had been attacked by a large dog when I was a child, and that I was still petrified of them, but this time she just pulled her arm back again. Her expression was icy as she stepped away from me. "Adam, we are at school. We can't be hanging all over each other in public." I looked at her, totally confused. A look of annoyance flashed across Sarah's face. "Never mind, you wouldn't understand anyway." Sarah wouldn't let me hold her hand, and went back to talking about homework with Kevin. They walked side by side, and I had no choice but to follow a few paces behind, like a lost puppy. The German shepherd's eyes were fixed on me. My shoulders were shaking uncontrollably as I kept checking on it. I was so afraid it was going to jump at me any second. As we got closer, right as we were about to walk past it, the dog let out a low growl and suddenly lunged. "Sarah!" I squeezed my eyes shut and yelled, "Sarah!" Kevin screamed at the exact same time. Sarah reacted instantly. Without even thinking, she shoved me behind her, but the sudden movement made her trip and hit the ground hard. A sharp pain shot through her knee. I looked down and saw a bad cut where a jagged rock had sliced her skin when she fell. A scream came from the other side. The dog had knocked Kevin over. Hearing him yell, Sarah scrambled up, ignoring her own injury, and ran over to chase the dog away. She helped him stand and pulled him into a hug, comforting him with total panic in her voice. "It's okay. Let me see where you're hurt." Kevin was shaking in Sarah's arms, but there didn't seem to be any blood or tears on his pants. "I don't remember where it bit me, but I hurt everywhere," he whined. Sarah's forehead wrinkled with worry. She helped him up, ready to take him to the hospital immediately. I wobbled to my feet and called out to her quietly, "Sarah." "I know." She cut me off, her voice freezing cold. "I know you fell too." I froze. Her patience was obviously gone. Her tone was thick with annoyance. "The campus clinic is right there. You can go get a Band-Aid." "Kevin might have been bitten," she continued frantically. "I have to take him to get a rabies shot right now." My leg was just scraped, nothing serious, but her wound was right on her knee, and every step she took looked painful. It was still bleeding. She shouldn't be walking that far on her own. I shook my head. "But you're—" Lately, she seemed to have zero tolerance for anything I had to say, interrupting me again. "If you hadn't kept staring at the dog and provoking it, it wouldn't have charged at us, and Kevin wouldn't have gotten hurt." Her words left me silent. I couldn't help but wonder if it really was my fault. Sarah shot me a look devoid of any emotion and turned away without hesitating. "I'm not going to deal with you right now, but at least don't stop me from fixing the mess you caused." I couldn't bring myself to ask for help anymore. Not long after my dad died, my mom decided to get remarried and move to another country. Before she dropped me off at the Miller house, she told me repeatedly, "Don't be a burden to anyone." She said I was already a burden just by being alive. I waited until the throbbing in my leg went down a bit before limping my way to the campus clinic. Just my luck. The nurse wasn't there. I decided to head back to the Miller house first, planning to find some supplies to clean Sarah's wound later. I was surprised to see Emily sitting on the couch. She had only finished college a couple of years ago. Even when she swapped her business suits for a hoodie, she still had this intimidating, sharp energy. "Emily?" I walked over to the couch and said hello politely. Emily's eyes dropped to my limping leg. Her voice was cool. "How did that happen?" Just as I was about to answer, the front door opened again. Sarah walked in, supporting Kevin. She raised an eyebrow in surprise when she saw Emily. "When did you get back?" Emily didn't answer. She just looked at the two of them with a sarcastic smile. "Sarah, are you cheating on him right in front of my face?" The sadness that had been sitting in my chest grew heavy as she stood up for me. I lowered my head, trying to fight back the burning sensation in my nose. Kevin hid behind Sarah, not daring to make a sound. But Sarah remained as calm as a statue. "Adam caused my classmate to sprain his ankle today. I'm just bringing him home to rest for a few days. That's perfectly reasonable, isn't it?" With that, she walked right past me with Kevin, acting as if I didn't exist. Emily scoffed, but didn't push it. She turned and asked a staff member to bring the first aid kit. Then she motioned for me to sit next to her and straighten out my leg. I stared at the bottles of alcohol and ointment. Gripping the cushion of the couch, I whispered, "Emily, can you please be gentle?" She didn't look up, just arched an eyebrow. Scared of a little pain? After that, the cotton swab with the antiseptic touched my scrape much lighter than I expected. I nodded. My pain tolerance is a lot lower than most people's. Emily's tone was casual. "Sarah doesn't seem to treat you very well, does she? Are you sure you want to keep going on like this with her?" I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Besides Sarah, it felt like I didn't have anywhere else to go. Emily's expression cooled, and she gave a slight, humorless purse of her lips. "And you don't mind, even when she hurts you?" As she spoke, she pressed the cotton swab a little harder against my scrape. Pain shot through my entire leg, making it jump. I let out a small yelp. "That hurts." Emily's brow furrowed. "Sorry." Looking slightly flustered, Emily knelt in front of me. She held my calf, leaned in close to the wound, and blew on it gently. "You okay?" she asked softly. Her movements were even more careful than before. The pain faded a bit, and I nodded. "What are you two doing?" Sarah was standing at the top of the stairs on the second floor, looking down on us. She walked over to Emily and held out her hand, her face a blank mask. "Sis, don't trouble yourself with Adam. He's my boyfriend. I'll take care of him." Emily gently set my leg down before slowly standing up. She smiled a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Then you better." Her speech was slow, almost like a threat. "Make sure you take good care of him. Don't give anyone else an opening." Sarah met her gaze, her jaw tightening, after Emily left. Sarah's expression was exceptionally cold as she held my calf. I was a little scared, and asked quietly, "Sarah, could someone else put the medicine on for me? Even the housekeeper would probably be gentler." Sarah stared at me for a few seconds, then let out a hollow laugh. "What is that supposed to mean?" She examined me, her eyes completely indifferent. "Are you pouting?" Her confusing anger only made me want her help less. But I shook my head and forced a smile so I wouldn't make her mad. "No, Sarah. It's just that Emily already cleaned it for me. You don't have to bother." This time she let go of my leg before I could pull it back. She stood up straight, looking down at me with a mocking tone. "You think I want to touch you?" "Do you think I would have agreed to look after you if your dad hadn't helped my family out in the past?" After that, She tossed the medicine bottle down next to me, turned, and walked to the guest room where Kevin was staying without another word. I felt a sharp pang of sadness. I don't know when it started, but Sarah had changed. That night I sat on my bed, hugging my knees, missing my mom more than I could handle. I held my phone, staring at the number on the screen, so familiar, yet one I had never dialed. I couldn't bring myself to press the call button. She had warned me that she was starting a new life abroad, and that I should forget her. She raised me until I was 18. She didn't owe me anything, and I had no right to disturb her new life. I stayed up until the sun came up, wondering what I did wrong. What was so broken about me that made everyone leave me one by one? The sound of a muffled argument outside my room broke my focus. I opened the door and followed the voices to the study. "Sarah, you brought a strange boy home. What do you think Adam will think?" It was Mrs. Miller, her voice thick with suppressed anger. "How could you do this to Adam? Have you no conscience? Our family owes him." "That's enough," Sarah cut her off with a cold laugh. "You always bring up how his dad helped your company. What's the point of guilt-tripping me like this? I just can't stand him. Is it so wrong that I want to date a normal guy? Why don't you make my sister marry him instead?" The next second, a sharp slap echoed from inside the room. I didn't really hear what they said after that. I just stumbled back to my room in a daze. I finally understood what was wrong with me, why no one liked me. I touched my head and sighed in frustration. I almost forgot. I'm an idiot. Even though my dad always told me when I was little that my brain was just a bit slower than everyone else's, that if I was given enough time, I would figure things out. But right now, I had to admit it. In everyone else's eyes, I was just a freak. The next morning, I saw Sarah thoughtfully pull out a chair for Kevin at the dining table and gently help him sit down. For the first time, I started thinking about leaving. As I looked away, my eyes met Emily's from her seat at the head of the table. She curled her lip in a sneer, then looked down, ignoring me. Kevin was all smiles. "Hey, Turtle, you've got it made. Living here for free, not lifting a finger." Emily tapped her fingers on the table. She glanced up at Kevin and smiled politely. "What did you just call him?" Kevin blinked innocently. "He's my age. It's okay to call him bro, right?" Emily looked him up and down, her gaze anything but polite. It was enough to make Kevin squirm in his seat. Sarah couldn't stand it. "Sis, don't give my classmate a hard time." "Shut up." Emily stared at her, her smile icy. "Am I talking to you?" Emily was the heir apparent to the Miller family business. Her business skills far surpassed Sarah's. That sealed her position as the one with absolute authority in the household. Sarah's face turned pale, but she didn't say another word. Emily still looked calm and courteous, but there was an undeniably intimidating aura about her. She smiled at Kevin. "Aren't you going to apologize?" The boy bit his lip, then turned to me and apologized profusely. "I didn't know you didn't like that nickname. I'm sorry, Adam, I really didn't mean it as an insult. I always thought it was an affectionate name, like I was calling you cute." I stared at the fried egg on my plate and poked it gloomily with my fork. I muttered, "If you love it so much, why don't you legally change your name to Kevin Turtle?" Emily let out a small laugh. When she looked at me again, her eyes were soft and gentle. Emily had only been at the company for 2 years and traveled a lot for work. That day when I saw her change back into a blouse and slacks, I knew she was leaving again. Emily ignored Sarah's warnings. She calmly continued to treat my wound, whispering, "Call me if you need anything." The hand holding the cotton swab paused for a moment, then pressed down again. "You can call even if you don't need anything." I nodded a few times. Thanks, Emily." After I spoke, I leaned back, supporting myself with my hands on the couch. After she finished, Emily didn't get up right away. Instead, she leaned over me, her eyes fixed on mine. "What should you do if someone bullies you?" My mom told me it was okay to be a doormat, to just put up with it, but my gut told me that wasn't the answer Emily wanted to hear. After thinking for a long time, I tilted my head to meet her gaze. I slowly managed to get out 2 words. "Call 911. Emily chuckled and shook her head. "That's one way, but the most direct way is to hit back." She told me no one had the right to make me feel small. Emily was gone for a week on her business trip, and I kept her words in my mind that whole week. Right before she was due back, Kevin suddenly approached me. He cornered me on the stairs, a smirk playing on his lips. "What will it take for you to break up with Sarah? Do her a favor and let her go, okay?" My first instinct was to walk around him, to pretend I hadn't heard and escape to my room. But I remembered what Emily said, and I stopped in my tracks. I enunciated each word carefully. "That doesn't seem to be any of your business." Kevin shook his head with exaggerated patience. "Oh, but it is, because I'm going to be with Sarah." I looked him straight in the eye. "Then you should be telling that to Sarah." Although, after a week of agonizing, I was already planning to end this so-called relationship anyway. Suddenly, Kevin glanced behind me and smiled slyly. "You want to bet I can make Sarah dump you using the dumbest trick in the book?" With that, he grabbed my arm and dug his fingernails in hard. It felt like they were about to break the skin. I tried to pull my arm back, wincing in pain. But Kevin squeezed harder, and I couldn't move. In a panic, I instinctively shoved him. I didn't use much force, but he immediately tumbled down the stairs. "Kevin!" Sarah's voice came from behind me. She rushed past me to Kevin's side. After checking him over, she had the driver help him into the car and head to the hospital. The massive house was suddenly empty, leaving just Sarah and me. She walked toward me, her face expressionless, but a chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't stop backing away. "Sarah, I didn't mean to—" She cornered me against the wall, her dark eyes like bottomless pits. "Adam? I'm only going to ask you this once. Did you push him or not?" I tried to explain, my words tumbling out in a panic. "No, it wasn't like that. What happened was— Did you or did you not push him?" She suddenly raised her voice, and my face went white with shock. Staring at the furious woman in front of me, I instinctively pulled out my phone to call for help. "I'm calling Emily." That only made Sarah angrier. She snatched my phone and slammed it onto the floor. She braced her hands on the wall on either side of me, trapping me. "Emily?" She let out a cold laugh. "Since when did you two get so close? Adam, don't you forget." She leaned in, her breath hot on my face. "I'm your girlfriend." I shook my head slightly, my voice barely a whisper. "Not anymore. Sarah, let me go." I tried to push her shoulder away, protesting softly. "I hate you. I don't want you anymore." She laughed faintly, as if I'd just told the most ridiculous joke. She seemed to think I was just throwing a tantrum, completely unconcerned. She started dragging me toward the storage room at the far end of the second floor. "Adam, even an idiot has to be punished when they do something wrong." I looked at the windowless room, which looked more like a prison cell, and terror washed over me. "Don't lock me in there!" I struggled with all my might, my explanations turning into desperate pleas. "He did it on purpose. He wanted me to push him. Sarah, don't! I'm afraid of the dark. I don't want to go in there." Sarah turned a deaf ear, locking me in the storage room without a change in expression. "I'm going to the hospital to take care of Kevin now. When I get back, I hope you'll have had some time to reflect, and that you'll be ready to admit your mistake and apologize to Kevin." The storage room was perfectly sealed. Not a sliver of light got in. I didn't even know if the oxygen would run out and I'd suffocate in there. At first, I held on to a shred of sanity, pounding on the door and crying for help. Then, all that was left were hysterical, gut-wrenching sobs. Finally exhausted, I slumped against the door and sat on the floor, numb, devoid of all emotion. When I opened my eyes and my consciousness returned, the first person I saw was a woman whose blouse was slightly disheveled, but her features were stunning. So stunning that I liked her the moment I saw her. "Adam?" she called me. "Adam, who are you?" My subconscious told me I didn't need to be on guard with this stranger. Why couldn't I remember anything? She paused for a barely perceptible second, then helped me sit up against the headboard. Her gaze was tender and affectionate. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "I'm Emily." She smoothed my hair back and introduced herself slowly. "And also, your fiancé." She was my fiancé? It felt like winning the secret rare prize in the very first blind box I ever bought. My face immediately lit up with joy. Just as I was about to speak, the bedroom door burst open. A disheveled-looking girl stumbled into the room. "Adam, I was wrong!" She looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. I pointed at her and asked Emily, "Who is she?" The woman smiled and placed a gentle kiss on my forehead. "My younger sister, Sarah," she added nonchalantly. "To you, she's just an insignificant stranger." Sarah stared at Emily. "Toh," her eyes filled with disbelief. "Emily, are you crazy?" She opened her mouth as if she had a million things to say. Emily's lips curved into a faint smile as she cut her off. "Isn't this what you've wanted for a long time? To get rid of him?" That one sentence pinned Sarah to the spot. Sarah's gaze fell on my face, and she stared at me for a long time, her expression dark and unreadable. I was completely baffled by the complicated look on her face. Seeing my confusion, she suddenly laughed. "Still the same? That same clueless, dazed look?" She fixed her eyes on Emily. "Of course. If you're willing to take over, that would be for the best. But are you sure you can stand talking to a brick wall forever?" Before Emily had her escorted out, she replied with a light laugh. "What makes you so sure you're not the one being left behind?" Sarah's face grew darker than the storm clouds outside. "Let's see if you can still talk so tough in a little while." That evening, when the doctor came to check on me, he left me with a cryptic remark. "It seems the shock may have stimulated Mr. Knight's neurological development. He might become a normal person." Emily's expression was neutral, clearly disagreeing with him. "He's always been a normal person." I started to wonder if maybe I wasn't normal before, or if I was mentally challenged. That suspicion was confirmed when Sarah brought a boy named Kevin home that night. The moment he saw me, he screamed in terror. "Adam, I was wrong. I didn't know you hated me that much. If you don't want me here, I'll leave right now. Please don't push me again." "Let me go, Sarah. I want to go home." His voice cracked as he spoke, making him sound deeply wronged. Sarah's icy gaze fixed on me. "Adam, apologize to Kevin." Emily, sitting next to me, was about to speak, but I beat her to it. "Where's the proof?" In an instant, everyone turned to look at me. The air seemed to freeze, becoming unnaturally quiet. I still had a chip in my mouth. I tilted my head and looked at Kevin. "You said I pushed you. Do you have any proof? I don't remember anything. So I can't just take your word for it, can I? What if tomorrow someone tells me I murdered someone? Should I just jump off a building to pay for it?" Emily was the first to recover. She rested her head on her hand, watching me with amusement. After thinking for 2 seconds, I offered her a chip. "If you want some, you can just take them." It was kind of embarrassing having her stare at me like that. I managed to add, fighting back a blush, "Girlfriends don't have to be so formal with me." She let out a low chuckle and accepted my reasoning. Kevin's face was blank for several seconds before he finally stammered out, "It was an emergency. I didn't exactly have time to record it." I cut him off. "Well then, there's nothing to be done." There was no way I was taking the blame for something with zero proof. Ignoring the two of them, I went back to sharing my snacks with Emily. In the middle of the night, a sudden storm knocked out the power in the house. The pitch-black room made me feel suddenly anxious and unsettled. Without even putting on shoes, I rushed to Emily's bedroom door. My knocking woke up not only Emily, but also Sarah in the room next door. I hid my hands behind my back, fidgeting uncontrollably. I said to Emily, "I'm a little scared of the dark. Can I sleep with you tonight?" "No!" Sarah was the one who answered immediately. Her brow was furrowed. "Could you have a little self-respect? My sister-in-law-to-be was so annoying." I shot back with a deadpan expression. "Are you jealous?" The moment the words left my mouth, Sarah's eyes darkened. The hand at her side balled into a fist, veins popping, but she didn't deny it. Even though I was younger than her, I figured since I was going to be her brother-in-law, I should be the bigger person. I sighed and shook my head. Just because your boyfriend gave you the cold shoulder, you can't stop me and your sister from being together. Sarah froze. Who is my boyfriend? Isn't it Kevin? She opened her mouth to say something, but before I could hear what it was, Emily pulled me into her room. The door slammed shut. Why are you wasting your breath on her? A few strands of black hair fell across her forehead, softening the intimidating aura she usually carried. Right then, she looked no different from a college student. A loud clap of thunder boomed outside. I shivered and grabbed the corner of her pajama top. So, can I sleep with you? She took my hand in hers and led me toward the bed. She glanced back at me, a lazy look in her eyes. Do you really need to ask permission to sleep with your own girlfriend? I felt like there was a double meaning in what she just said. Not long after we lay down, a strange noise started coming from Sarah's room next door. It was rhythmic, with a very strong beat. Sarah, slower, slow down. Sarah wasn't trying to keep her voice down. Louder, baby. The sounds were so loud we could hear every single step of the process. Insane. I thought Emily would be as embarrassed as I was, but when I looked at her face, I saw a smile playing on her lips. My attention diverted, I asked the question that was on my mind. Why do you look like you're enjoying the show? Emily's tone was remarkably composed. Because she'll never have another chance. Her cryptic words left me completely confused. Before I could think about it, the noises from next door got even louder. In the silent, dark night, I heard Emily's breathing deepen. In that moment, her dark, bright eyes were full of aggression. I hid under the covers, feeling a little flustered. Do you want to... Before I could finish the sentence, she cut me off. Yes, she said. I do. With that, she pulled me into her arms. It was then that I noticed Emily had nimble, slender hands. They looked like they would be perfect for playing the piano. Her soft kisses landed on my earlobe. I couldn't help but let out a small sound. The woman's smile didn't falter. So, you want to too? I wrapped my arms around her neck in silent agreement. But then nothing happened. What's wrong? I asked, my breath uneven. She closed her eyes, her voice husky. Don't have anything. The noises from next door finally stopped. My ears were burning with embarrassment, but I mustered the courage to make a suggestion. You could go ask Sarah to borrow one? Emily looked down at me, a playful smile on her face. One isn't going to be enough. Then she got up and slipped on a robe. She even washed her hands before going to knock on the door. I huddled under the covers, listening to their entire conversation through the crack in the door. Sarah's voice was cold. What do you want? Emily seemed to be in a good mood and didn't rise to the bait. She just said, Your brother-in-law sent me to borrow something. Sarah sneered. Since when did I acknowledge him as my brother-in-law? I was about to roll my eyes into the back of my head. Emily was very indulgent with her younger sister and still didn't argue with her. She smiled gently. My boyfriend sent me to borrow something. Condoms. She paused as if thinking, then added languidly, Let's start with 3. 2 seconds later, Sarah cursed under her breath, then added, Stop putting on an act. You won't dare. Not before everything is settled. Despite her words, she slammed the door with a thunderous bang. Emily returned empty-handed. But she didn't seem affected by Sarah's words, her smile unwavering. Back in bed, she just held me in her arms and did nothing, as if she had calmed down. She lazily stroked the back of my head. She wouldn't share. I'll go buy some tomorrow. With that, she closed her eyes, ready to sleep. I looked up from her embrace, completely at a loss. Emily? You can't be so selfish. She looked at me through half-lidded eyes. I didn't know how to say it, so I just stared at her pleadingly. Emily understood and pulled me closer. Her voice was teasing. Wow, you're really desperate, aren't you? The blush started at my ears and spread across my entire face. Can you please not say that? A tolerant smile played on Emily's lips. Then why don't you shut me up? Before I could react, she put her words into action. I buried myself under the covers, wrapping myself up tightly, then sent her to brush her teeth. The chaos of that night was too much for me to process. Emily and I hadn't even kissed yet. Of course, I wasn't going to let her kiss me again anytime soon. But I didn't stick to that decision for very long, because Emily was quite possibly the most pitiful CEO I had ever seen. She would work around the clock just to spend a few more hours with me. She would rush back home through storms, even when she'd planned to catch a few hours of rest at the office, just because I was afraid of the dark. And on top of all that pressure, she had to endure Sarah's relentless bullying. Before Emily got home from work, I knocked on Sarah's door for the first time. She froze for a second when she saw me. Through the crack in the door, I saw Kevin with red, puffy eyes. I smiled sheepishly. "Sorry to bother you. I can come back when you're free." "I'm free now," Sarah said quickly. She opened the door wider and said to Kevin in a flat tone, "You can go now." Kevin's ankle still hadn't fully healed, but Sarah just watched coldly as he limped away awkwardly. Sarah stumbled over her words, looking a bit lost. "Do you, want something to eat or drink? I can go buy it for you, okay? You can come in and wait." I glanced at the downpour outside, confused. I shook my head and stood at the door. "Do you know your sister well? Do you know what she likes to eat? Or what she can't eat?" I couldn't help but feel down. I've seen how tired and busy she is with work lately. I want to do something for her. Sarah's expression darkened. "Is that all you wanted to ask?" I nodded. She stared at me without a word. After a long moment, she slammed the door in my face. "I don't know. Don't bother me unless you have a good reason." She seriously had some anger issues. I kicked her door once and walked away. Sarah's anger lasted well into the evening. At the dinner table at 7 p.m., Emily's eyes were shadowed with fatigue. I rested my chin on my hand, watching her with an ache in my heart. In contrast, Sarah let out a contemptuous sneer. "Sis, if you're so tired, why not just hand the company over to me?" Emily paused in the middle of rubbing her temples and slowly looked up. Sarah leaned back in her chair and said pointedly, "I've changed my mind. Either you give me back what should have been mine, or you give me 2/3 of your shares." She already owned a portion of the company. If she added 2/3 of Emily's shares, she would become the majority shareholder. Her intentions were blatantly obvious. After she spoke, Kevin, sitting next to her, shot me a panicked look. He asked her, "Then what about me?" Sarah smiled casually, spinning her plate with her fingertip. "Did I ever say you were my boyfriend? I can give you however much money you want, can't I? Don't be so boring." I chewed on my chopsticks, pretending to casually watch the two of them. I thought Kevin would explode on the spot and was getting ready for some dinner theater. But he just lowered his head, on the verge of tears, and didn't say another word as they dripped onto his plate. Sarah turned her attack back to Emily. "I'm talking to you, Emily. I know you'd never give up your position as heir, so just give me back what belongs to me. I just want him." She was so impatient she was using Emily's full name. Even though I had no idea what riddle she was talking about, I was still furious. I stabbed my plate a couple of times with my chopsticks, then glanced at Emily. I didn't bother lowering my voice. "Hey, is your sister missing part of her brain or something? How else could she beg so shamelessly?" Emily just smirked and said nothing, but Sarah suddenly blew up. She kicked her chair back, stood up, and swept all her dishes onto the floor. "You don't remember anything, so just shut up!" She stared at me, her eyes red-rimmed, a hint of grievance mixed with her rage. "Adam, don't be so biased. You only know how nice she's been to you since you lost your memory, right? Let me make one thing clear. Before you lost your memory..." Hiss. Emily suddenly made a sound, cutting Sarah off. I turned my head and saw a conspicuous gash on her forearm. It was long and deep, and blood was steadily seeping out. I immediately bent down to cup her arm, asking frantically, "How did you get this? I'll take you back to the room to take care of it." Emily let me pull her to her feet, saying calmly, "When Sarah threw the dishes just now, a piece of glass flew up and cut me." Sarah looked at her in disbelief. "Emily, what the hell are you talking about?" I had had enough. I picked up a chopstick and threw it at her. "What is your problem? Why are you freaking out for no reason? If it wasn't you—" Did she cut herself? Emily glanced at the wound without emotion, as if she couldn't feel the pain. Meanwhile, a storm was brewing in Sarah's dark eyes as she stared daggers at me. But in the end, she said nothing more. In the room, as I was bandaging Emily's wound, my eyes started to well up and my voice choked with emotion. "What's wrong?" She used one hand to tilt my chin up. I shook my head and cut the gauze to tie a knot. Emily gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eye with her thumb and leaned in to kiss it. "Sarah is always bullying you. Let's move out, okay?" A slight smile touched Emily's lips. "Okay," I continued correcting her. "You shouldn't let her walk all over you. You don't owe her anything." Her kissing stopped for a moment, and her expression became unreadable. Her eyes held an emotion I couldn't decipher. I do feel a little guilty when it comes to Sarah. I didn't understand, but Emily casually changed the subject to stop me from asking more. "How am I going to take a shower tonight?" I hesitated, not answering right away. Emily nodded. "It's fine. I can ask Sarah to help me." She started to get up and walk toward the door. I blocked her way with both hands, looking up at her seriously. "She'll hurt you." I took a deep breath and said firmly, "I'll help you." Emily looked at me apologetically. "Sorry for the trouble." The bathtub was filling with water, and steam filled the enclosed space. The air was hot and humid. My hands rested on the buttons of Emily's shirt. Under her increasingly intense gaze, I fumbled with them for what felt like an eternity. Emily braced one hand on the marble counter behind me and kissed my earlobe. A little faster, Adam. "Is it too late for me to go get Sarah to help you?" A low chuckle rumbled in the woman's throat, incredibly alluring. Too late. It was so hot I felt like I was in a sauna. Emily pressed her advantage, luring me step by step into her trap. The thin air was making me feel lightheaded. All my awkward shyness vanished when I saw the blood seeping through the gauze on her arm. I pushed on her shoulders urgently, trying to get her out of the tub. "Emily, you need to get out." The woman calmly raised an eyebrow. I was flustered and embarrassed, and I opened my mouth to say something. Emily took the opportunity to lean in and kiss me unexpectedly. She coaxed, "Give me a little something back, Adam." The pleading look in her eyes tricked me, and my resolve softened. Finally, I closed my eyes and wrapped my arms around her. I let myself sink. The next morning, I started calling moving companies. Around noon, Sarah saw the large truck parked outside. She frowned and demanded, "You're moving out?" I gave her a non-committal nod and walked past her to find Emily in our room. Suddenly, Sarah's gaze sharpened and she grabbed my arm. She yanked me in front of her, her eyes fixed on the red mark on my collarbone. "You slept with her? It's none of your business. Let go." The pressure around Sarah was terrifyingly low. Her grip was so tight it felt like she was going to crush my wrist. "None of my business." She forced a stiff smile. "I'm your girlfriend, Adam." My eyes widened in shock. At almost the exact same moment, the bedroom door behind me opened. There was no sound, but I knew Emily was standing right there. Tsuarim. Sarah's gaze shifted from behind me back to my face, her eyes filled with triumphant provocation. She told me everything. But in her version of the story, she was the tolerant, loving girlfriend who had sacrificed her freedom for me. It took me a long time to process it all. Finally, I easily broke free from Sarah's grasp. I walked over to Emily. I met her eyes without a word. Sarah sneered. "She's the one who lied to you, who stole my place and shamelessly touched you." Emily remained quiet. Her words didn't seem to affect her at all. I reached out and took her cool hand, only then realizing how tense she was beneath her calm exterior. "Emily, can you tell me about what happened before I lost my memory?" She looked at me, taking a long time before she finally spoke. "I did lie to you." I nodded. "And then? How did we get along before my amnesia? And from your perspective, what was my relationship with Sarah like?" A fragile emotion finally surfaced in her eyes. She slowly told me the story from another point of view. In the end, Emily said, "I don't regret lying to you the moment you woke up. If I could do it all over again, I would make the same choice." Behind us, Sarah let out a cold snort. I didn't let go of Emily's hand. I squinted and smiled. "If we could do it all over again, let's not go back to when I lost my memory. Let's go back to the day I was sent to your house. You should have been the one to take my hand, not Sarah. We wouldn't have had to take such a long detour." Emily pulled me into her arms. I pretended not to notice that she was trying to hide her teary eyes. That day Sarah wouldn't give up. She cornered me and demanded to know why I still chose Emily in the end. I thought about it for a moment and answered simply, "Because she loves me, and she's very, very good to me." I'd heard the housekeeper sigh about it before. Emily had always been the same toward me. Now I finally understood what he meant. She never changed, whether I was slow or normal. She loved me. She had always loved me. Sarah's voice was hoarse. "I love you too, Adam. If I didn't like you back then, I wouldn't have let you stay by my side for so long. I just didn't realize it sooner." No, that wasn't it. She was just resentful. Before, she was annoyed because she couldn't stand the idea of being tied to an idiot for the rest of her life. Now she was clinging to me because she couldn't stand that I was normal again, but didn't want her. I didn't have time to reason with her. I just looked at her blankly and said, "But you weren't good to me. Otherwise, how would I have ended up locked in a storage closet, so traumatized that I lost my mind?" Sarah's lips parted, but she didn't say anything, silently letting Emily and me leave. My memory came back in bits and pieces. The day it all came back, the Miller house was in total chaos late at night. When Emily and I arrived, Kevin was pointing the finger at me. "If you hadn't pushed me back then, I wouldn't have been recovering here for so long, and my relationship with Sarah wouldn't have gotten to this point." Emily scoffed and had the bodyguards outside drag him out. I stopped her and then nodded in agreement. "I remember everything now. I did push you." The entire Miller family turned to look at me. I slowly explained how Kevin had dug his fingernails into my arm. The panic on Kevin's face was impossible to hide. It was obvious who was telling the truth. Sarah laughed at herself and said to Kevin, "So it was all your fault that he and I broke up?" And they were back to their endless bickering. I pulled Emily out of the toxic house. She asked, "You remember everything?" I nodded, then wrapped my arms around her neck and planted a kiss on her cheek. Yep, I'm so glad I remember." "Why?" Emily held my waist. I used the height difference to nuzzle her nose. "Because I was already planning to break up with Sarah back then. I'm not sure if I was already falling for you at that point, but every night you were away on your business trip, I missed you. A lot." She smiled and tilted her head to press a kiss on the corner of my mouth. "Me too." There was a stretch of road on the way home with no streetlights. Combined with the heavy clouds tonight, it was pitch black. I realized with a start that I wasn't so afraid of the dark anymore. I took Emily's hand and asked her idly, "So, do you like the slower me more, or the me I am now?" Just when I thought she would give a generic, all-pleasing answer like, "I like both," she chose the latter. "Why?" I stopped and turned to look at her. Emily met my gaze calmly. "I'll still have to travel a lot for work in the future, and I can't guarantee I'll always be there to take care of you. Not only that, but I'm 5 years older than you. I'll probably die before you do, Adam." Her words were full of our future. "The you right now is great. You won't let yourself be bullied anymore. So even if one day you don't love me anymore, I can let you go with peace of mind." I latched onto the key point and shot back, dissatisfied. "Why couldn't it be you who stops loving me and leaves me?" "Because I will never stop loving you." What a coincidence. I stood in front of her, and we saw only each other in our eyes. In that moment, it was like the whole world faded away, and there was only her. I returned her promise. "Me too. I will never stop loving you, either."
Tanner's so locked in.
Oh, all right. Well, fuck, Tanner. My bad. I heard that jet behind us, and
Be advised, Alpha is
Roger.
under attack.
hey, block the heli spawn real quick. Block the heli spawn real quick.
We have lost Echo.
Whee! Whee! Oh, where's this fucker go? Oh,
Did you follow Snips? Yes, I did. I did. Is Snips live?
Be advised, Charlie is under attack.
this guy's fucking
Good
sweaty.
boy.
Be advised, the enemy now controls more objectives.
Simon.
We are attacking objective Bravo. Got eyes on enemy gun!
Fuck.
Direct hit! Direct hit! Be advised, the enemy has control of Echo.
Bye.
We now hold more objectives. Keep pushing. All call signs. Mission is still on track.
You got a stinger?
I had to go. It's about to get loud. Okay.
Bravo is being secured.
Hope you have a good rest of your shift.
She's only a teensy bit prettier than me. It's actually pretty close though.